Today, the energy I'm sensing is one of jealousy, but not in the way you might think. It's not jealousy of you, or even about you. It's something much deeper, something spiritual. It's as if someone is silently thinking, I could have done this. I could have had this connection. This energy comes from someone who completely misread you and your intentions. When I say misread, I mean they misunderstood your words, your energy, and the way you communicate. They've been conditioned to deal with people who aren't direct, so they overanalyze, searching for hidden meanings where there are none. Ironically, this person tried to make you feel jealous, but only because they were struggling with their own feelings of envy. They weren't jealous of you, but rather of the space you hold, the energy you carry, the connections you cultivate. They questioned their place in your life, wondering if you saw them as equally significant as they saw you. I keep picking up on the words clingy and embarrassed. Two things they were not used to feeling. This is someone who typically maintains composure, someone self-aware and observant. But with you, something shifted. They felt like they were losing control. Your presence had a profound effect on them. Time seemed to slip away, and for once, they couldn't hide behind distractions or excuses. The connection was undeniable. It was rare, powerful. There was something about your energy that felt deeply aligned, pulling them in, yet unsettling them at the same time. You resonated with their deepest desires, their unspoken hopes, and the type of connection they had longed for, but never quite found. And that realization shook them. This isn't someone who easily lets people in. Yet with you, it was as if a switch had flipped. Think of a cat that usually keeps its distance, but suddenly becomes affectionate with the one person who understands it. That's the kind of shift you triggered in them. They were caught off guard by how much they opened up, even to sides of themselves they hadn't fully recognized before. This isn't just about past wounds or trust issues. This is deeper than that. They found themselves grappling with a question they couldn't shake. Are you even real? Because in many ways, your life mirrored theirs. Like them, you've been overlooked, your kindness taken for granted, and your energy unreciprocated. But somehow, the two of you crossed paths, and in that meeting, something awakened that neither of you could ignore. It was a shared understanding, a silent recognition of what it feels like to be underappreciated. This only deepened their connection to you. They may not be neurodivergent or uniquely different in a clinical sense, but they saw something in your spirit that reflected their own, and it was overwhelming. Imagine being consumed by an energy so unfamiliar yet so captivating that it disrupts everything you once considered normal. That's what they felt with you. An almost otherworldly pull that shook their very foundation. In those moments, nothing else mattered. Their world narrowed until the only thing in focus was you. It was as if, without words, they were saying, I see you, and no matter what happens, I won't let you go. But despite this intense connection, their actions were clouded by desperation and uncertainty. They made choices, perhaps influenced by fear, confusion, or even bad advice, that didn't align with how they truly felt. Not out of malice, but because the thought of losing you was terrifying. They felt unbalanced, as if their emotions for you ran deeper than yours could ever run for them. That fear led them to question, is this too good to be true? Can something this perfect even last? In their attempt to tip the scales, to regain a sense of control, they unknowingly complicated something pure. They didn't fully understand the depth of your compassion, not just for those you love, but even for strangers, for souls you barely know. For many of you, this is someone whose energy, whether you've met them yet or not, will resonate deeply with you. When that moment comes, your conversations will flow effortlessly. You'll feel naturally drawn to them, possibly even falling in love before you realize what's happening. But here's the truth. They planned something intentional. It wasn't necessarily deceitful, but it was calculated, a way to provoke a reaction. They thought, I need to make you jealous. I need to get you to react. This strategy may have worked on others, but not on you. You think differently. You see things clearly. You move with intention, not games. Their actions weren't pure self-sabotage, but rather a misguided attempt to navigate emotions they had never encountered before. And in doing so, they risked losing the very thing they cherished most. They're used to dealing with people who play along, who keep their intentions vague and their desires unclear. But you're different. You're upfront about what you want, how you expect to be treated, and where you stand. Your honesty set the tone from the beginning, even if they didn't acknowledge it outright. Deep down, they knew they were dealing with someone unlike anyone they'd ever met before. And yet this clarity unsettled them. When they're with you, they feel something unfamiliar, a sense of peace and stillness, as if for the first time, they no longer need to search for something missing. This level of connection isn't something they're accustomed to. While you might be clear about what you want from this relationship, for them, it feels almost overwhelming. It disconnects them from the reality they're used to, as if they've stepped into a new realm of being. For many of you, this connection is romantic, though for some, it may manifest as a deep, unshakable bond beyond labels. Their past tactics, their attempts to provoke jealousy or elicit a reaction, may have worked before. But with you, those same strategies only reveal just how different you are. You're not swayed by manipulation, and that's something they're still trying to process. Their efforts to provoke a response have either failed or will fail if they try again, because you don't react the way most people do. Your straightforward nature makes you stand out. You don't leave room for people to misinterpret your intentions or second-guess your words. You've been transparent and true to yourself, and that's not something they're used to. It's not a flaw, but for them, it's completely outside their comfort zone. This openness places you in a unique category, one that challenges them to see relationships, and perhaps even themselves, in a new way. They don't quite know how to handle this. The depth of their emotions, the intensity of this connection, and most of all, your unshakable presence. Somewhere along the way, they may have made a mistake, done something they now regret. They see now that their actions were misguided, that they let their fears and insecurities dictate their choices. And now they feel like they've backed themselves into a corner, trapped by the very consequences they unknowingly set in motion. This person isn't malicious. They aren't acting out of cruelty or manipulation. Instead, they are overwhelmed, a flood of emotions they can't quite control. And sometimes, that overwhelm leads them to act out in irrational and extreme ways, not to hurt you, but to seek reassurance that you still care. But their methods don't work on you. You've grown past the need to chase people, past the days of getting caught in emotional games. You recognize these energies instinctively, and rather than getting pulled in, you resist them. You see through the patterns, the unspoken intentions, the attempts to stir a reaction. And for them, that's unexpected. They didn't anticipate that their usual approach, which may have worked on others, would fall flat with you. They expected emotional responses, a push and pull dynamic, maybe even a little jealousy. But instead, they were met with your stillness, your refusal to engage in the same cycles that once defined their connections. And now, they feel stuck in a loop of their own making. They try to pull away, to put space between you and them, thinking that distance will give them clarity. But no matter how far they step back, something keeps drawing them right back to you. Because this isn't just a connection of the mind or body. It's deeper than that. This is spiritual. This is the kind of connection that shakes a person to their core, that forces them to confront the things they've long ignored within themselves. They feel it in their soul, an all-encompassing presence that refuses to fade, no matter how much they try to suppress it. And that's what scares them the most. They fear that if things fall apart, it won't just be the loss of a relationship. It will feel like losing a part of themselves. And that fear drives them into observation mode. They watch you closely, not in an obsessive or unhealthy way, but with an unspoken reverence. They take note of the way you move, the way you speak, the way your energy fills a space. They want to understand you, not to control, not to possess, but simply because they care. In many ways, they have placed themselves as a silent guardian, someone who knows you so well that if they wanted to, they could hurt you strategically. They could say the right words to break you down, to trigger wounds you fought hard to heal. But they never would. Because this love isn't about power or dominance. It's selfless. It's quiet. It's rooted in a deep, unwavering desire to see you thrive, even if it means they have to battle their own emotions in silence. And yet, despite this love, they remain trapped in their own insecurities, unsure of how to move forward without risking everything. So they stay where they are, watching, waiting, feeling everything, yet saying nothing. Because to them, you are the one thing they don't know how to let go of. There's a certain complexity to this connection, an unspoken depth that neither of you can quite put into words. This person doesn't just see you. They read you, every part of you. They recognize your light, but they also sense your darkness, your contradictions, your every nuance. It's as if they understand you on a level beyond words, which makes ordinary, everyday communication feel almost trivial in comparison. There is an undeniable flow of energy between you. Something intangible, something happening on a spiritual plane, rather than just the physical or emotional. It's a frequency that both of you are attuned to, whether you realize it consciously or not. And yet, despite this deep connection, they feel stuck. It's as if their own actions, their own words, have backed them into a corner. They want to express something honest, raw, and profound, but they feel paralyzed, not by a lack of feelings, but by the overwhelming fear of vulnerability. For so long, they've been in control. They have mastered the art of managing emotions, of keeping a tight grip on what they reveal and who they allow in. They've spent years carefully curating their responses, making sure to never expose too much, to never give away leverage in any relationship. But with you, all of that has shifted. Your presence brings them something they've never felt before. A deep, unshakable stillness. A peace that reaches beyond the surface, settling into places they didn't even know needed healing. And as much as they crave that peace, they also fear it. Because what happens if it disappears? What happens if they allow themselves to truly trust it, only for it to be taken away? In their confusion, they've made choices, sometimes irrational, sometimes counterproductive, to try and regain control. They may have tested you, intentionally or unintentionally, trying to see if you would chase them, if you would react in the same way others have before. But you don't respond like others do. You've done the inner work. You've transcended the need to seek validation through emotional games. You don't operate from a place of lack or desperation. Your energy functions on a higher level, one of clarity and presence. And that unsettles them. They're not used to someone who doesn't cling, who doesn't try to force a connection, who simply allows things to unfold as they are meant to. So now, they find themselves in uncharted territory. Their usual methods, strategies they've used before to maintain power in relationships, don't work on you, and it leaves them feeling lost, unsure of how to proceed. To an outsider, their actions may seem calculated, but in truth, they stem not from malice, but from fear. They don't want to lose you, yet they don't quite know how to hold on without reverting to their old patterns of control and resistance. But the truth is, control won't save them this time. What they need, and what you may need too, is surrender. Let go of the need to define this connection, to predict its outcome, to force it into a mold that feels safer. Let go of the need to control emotions, to protect yourself from the possibility of loss. Because in that surrender, something authentic can finally take root. Something built not on fear, but on trust. Not on attachment, but on mutual understanding. And while this process of letting go might feel uncomfortable, maybe even frightening, it is necessary. Because only by releasing control can both of you allow the deeper, brighter sides of yourselves to fully emerge. Love was never meant to be about power or dominance. It was always meant to be about acceptance. And perhaps through this connection, both of you are learning how to finally embrace that truth. Until next time, take care and stay grounded.